Have you ever looked out your window and wondered if there's still something exciting waiting for you, even at this stage of life? Maybe you've spent years raising kids, working hard, or just keeping up with the day-to-day, and now you're thinking, is this it? Well, I'm here to tell you it's not. Life doesn't have to slow down or fade out after 60. It can be the start of something brand new. Something that lights you up in ways you never expected. Imagine picking up a paintbrush for the first time at 70, or digging into a garden at 75, and suddenly feeling like a kid again. That's what this video is all about. Real stories of folks just like you who found passions like painting or gardening later in life. And some simple tips to help you get started too. Because here's the truth. It's never too late to reinvent yourself, and I'm so glad you're here to explore that with me. Let's kick things off with a story that really stuck with me. Meet Eleanor. She's 68, a retired teacher from Ohio, and for most of her life, she thought creativity was for other people. She'd spent decades grading papers, raising 3 kids, and keeping her house running like clockwork. But a few years ago, she was flipping through a magazine at the doctor's office and saw a painting of a sunflower field, bright, bold, and full of life. Something clicked. She didn't know the first thing about art, but she went home, bought a $10 set of watercolors from the craft store, and started messing around. At first, she laughed at her shaky lines and muddy colors, but she kept at it. Now, her living room walls are covered with her own paintings. Flowers, landscapes, even a portrait of her old dog Max. She says it's not about being good. It's about how alive she feels when she's got that brush in her hand. Eleanor's story isn't rare either. There's something magical about discovering a passion like painting later in life, and it's closer than you might think. So, how do you get started? If you're curious about painting too, you don't need to be Picasso, and you definitely don't need fancy supplies. Grab some basic watercolors or acrylics. Those little starter kits you see at the store work just fine. Find a spot with good light, maybe by a window, where you can watch the birds or the neighbors strolling by. Start simple. Try painting something you love, like a flower from your yard or a coffee mug on your table. Don't worry if it's messy. That's half the fun. Eleanor swears by just playing around for 10 minutes a day. No pressure, no rules. There's even free videos online if you want a little guidance. But the real trick is to let yourself enjoy it. It's not about the painting itself. It's about giving yourself permission to try something new. And who knows, you might surprise yourself with what you create. Now, painting's just one way to spark that fire. Gardening's another passion that's hooked so many folks over 60, and it's got its own kind of magic. Take Jim, for example. He's 72, a former mechanic from Texas, and he didn't touch a plant until his wife passed 5 years ago. He was lost, rattling around an empty house, until one spring he decided to fix up the backyard she'd always loved. He started small, just a couple of tomato plants in pots on the porch, but then he got curious about peppers, then herbs, and before he knew it, he'd built raised beds and was out there every morning, hands in the dirt. Jim says it's not just about the fresh tomatoes, though those are pretty great. It's about feeling connected to something growing, something alive. He's even got the grandkids helping now, and they think he's the coolest guy around. Gardening gave Jim a purpose he didn't expect, and it's amazing how a few seeds can turn into so much more. If gardening's calling your name, you don't need a big space or green thumbs to start. A pot on your porch or a corner of your yard is plenty. Pick something easy. Herbs like basil or mint grow fast and don't need much fussing. Get a bag of potting soil, a cheap trowel, and maybe a packet of seeds or a little plant from the hardware store. Water it when the soil feels dry, give it some sun, and watch it go. Jim's tip? Talk to your plants. He swears it helps. And even if it doesn't, it'll make you smile. You're not signing up for a full-time job here. It's about taking a few minutes to nurture something and see where it takes you. There's a quiet joy in watching a tiny sprout turn into something real, and it's a feeling that sneaks up on you. Both Eleanor and Jim found something special in these passions, and what I love about their stories is how simple it was to begin. You don't need years of experience or a big budget, just a little curiosity and a willingness to give it a shot. Painting and gardening aren't just hobbies, they're ways to wake up parts of yourself you might have forgotten about. And there's more to explore. Other seniors have stumbled into passions that fit them just as well, with their own tricks to make it easy and fun. So, let's keep going and dive into a few more stories and tips that might just inspire you to try something new too. So, we've been talking about how folks like Eleanor and Jim found their spark with painting and gardening. But those aren't the only paths out there. Some seniors stumble into passions that surprise even them, and the stories just keep getting better. Take Margaret, for instance. She's 74, lives in a little apartment in Seattle, and never thought much about crafts until her daughter dragged her to a pottery class at the community center. Margaret figured she'd humor her, maybe make a lumpy bowl, and call it a day. But when she sat down at that wheel, something shifted. The clay was cool and soft under her hands, and she loved how it turned into whatever she wanted. Well, almost. Her first few tries looked more like modern art disasters, but she didn't care. Now, she's got a shelf full of mugs and vases, and she says it's the best therapy she's ever had. It's funny how a lump of clay can turn into a new piece of you, isn't it? If pottery sounds intriguing, you don't need a wheel or a kiln to dip your toes in. Start with air-dry clay. You can find it at any craft store for a few bucks. It's easy to shape with your hands, or some basic tools like a butter knife or a spoon from your kitchen. Sit at your table, put on some music, maybe that old jazz you used to love, and just play. Make a little bowl, a figurine, whatever comes to mind. Margaret's trick is to keep a bowl of water nearby to smooth out the rough spots. But she says the real secret is not taking it too seriously. You're not opening a shop. You're just seeing what happens. And if there's a class nearby, even better. Sometimes having a few folks around makes it more fun. It's all about feeling that sense of creating something from nothing. And at 74, Margaret's proof it's never too late to get your hands dirty in a good way. Then there's Henry, 69, from North Carolina, who found his passion in a totally different direction, writing. He'd spent his life driving trucks, never wrote more than a grocery list, but after retiring, he started jotting down stories from the road. It began with a notebook he kept by his recliner, scribbling memories of late-night drives and quirky characters he'd met. His kids got him a cheap laptop for Christmas, and suddenly he was typing up tales about hauling freight through snowstorms and the time he saw a UFO, or thought he did. Henry's not out to win any prizes. He just loves how writing pulls those moments back to life. He even reads them to his buddies at the diner, and they're hooked. For him, it's like opening a window to a part of himself he didn't know was there. Want to try writing like Henry? You don't need to be Shakespeare. Just grab a pen and paper, or use that tablet you've got lying around. Start with something small. A memory from years ago, a funny thing your grandkid said, or even what you saw out your window this morning. Write for 5 minutes and see where it goes. Henry says it helps to picture you're telling the story to a friend. No fancy words, just you talking. If you get stuck, think about a time you laughed or cried. Those moments always have a way of spilling out. You're not writing a bestseller. You're capturing a piece of your life. And who knows, maybe you've got a story your family will treasure someday. What's so great about Margaret and Henry is how they didn't let age or inexperience stop them. Pottery and writing sound different, but they've got the same heart. Taking a chance on something that feels good. It's not about being perfect or impressing anyone. It's about that little thrill you get when you step into something new. And there's more out there. Other seniors picking up passions that fit just right, with easy ways to jump in. Let's keep exploring what else might be waiting for you. We've been chatting about how folks like Eleanor, Jim, Margaret, and Henry stumbled into passions that brought them so much joy. And it's amazing how these stories show there's no expiration date on finding something you love. Now, let's meet Ruth. She's 77, from a small town in Oregon, and she picked up photography a couple of years ago. Ruth had always admired those glossy nature magazines, but she never thought she'd be the one behind the camera. It started when her grandson left an old point and shoot at her house. She took it outside one morning, snapped a picture of the dew on her roses, and couldn't believe how pretty it turned out. Now, she's out there almost every day. Birds, sunsets, even the cracks in the sidewalk catch her eye. She says it's like seeing the world fresh again, and her fridge is covered with prints she's proud of. Ruth's found a way to hold on to moments, and it's changed how she moves through her days. If photography sparks your interest, you don't need anything fancy to start. That old phone in your pocket? It's got a camera that's plenty good enough. Or if you've got a dusty digital camera somewhere, dig it out. Head outside, your yard, a park, wherever feels nice, and look for something that catches your eye. Maybe it's the way the light hits a tree or a squirrel darting around. Take a few shots. Play with getting closer or farther away. Ruth's tip is to keep it simple and shoot what makes you smile. No rules, just fun. You can even print your favorites at the drugstore for a couple of bucks. It's less about the perfect picture and more about noticing the little things you might have missed before. Pretty soon, you'll be hunting for beauty everywhere you go. What ties all these stories together? Eleanor with her paints, Jim and his garden, Margaret shaping clay, Henry scribbling tales, and Ruth snapping photos is how they didn't wait for permission or the perfect moment. They just started, messy and unsure, and found something that felt like theirs. And that's the real magic here. You don't have to be an expert or have all the gear. A brush, a seed, a lump of clay, a pen, a camera, simple stuff can open doors you didn't know were there. It's about giving yourself a chance to feel that buzz again, that lift you get when you're doing something just for you. Life after 60 isn't about winding down. It's a wide open invitation to try, to play, to reinvent. So, here's my nudge to you. Think about what's tugged at your curiosity lately. Maybe it's one of these: painting, gardening, pottery, writing, photography, or maybe it's something else entirely. Whatever it is, take one tiny step. Pick up that paintbrush, plant that seed, snap that picture. You don't have to be good at it, and it doesn't have to take over your life. Just let it be yours for a little while. I'd love to hear what you try, so drop it in the comments below. And if this video lit a little spark for you, give it a like. It helps more folks like us find it. Hit that subscribe button too, because there's plenty more where this came from. Here's to finding your passion, reinventing your days, and living your best life at any age. Cheers to that.